Frances Wallace from Make It Happen.
Yeah, so good afternoon. I'm Frances from Make It Happen, and I'm here to talk to you just a little bit today about digital technologies, about the journey of Make It Happen, and also about how we can help you in your schools, which is probably the part that you're really here for anyway. So my background is primarily a primary school teacher, usually teaching in the middle and the upper schools. I did a lot of time in primary 7. I've always loved digital technologies, and for me it was more a love of the fact that it made my life a little bit easier. But during my probation year, I was asked if I was willing to run a coding club. And obviously as a probationer said, yeah, that sounds awesome, no problem at all, great. Little did the person asking me know that I had never written a line of code in my life. I had no idea what I was doing, and I had never even actually been to a computing class. I hadn't taken a high school or anything. So I went home and I started researching. I started using how-to guides, videos, and tutorials on how to use various different types of code, primarily focusing on Scratch programming because that's what the coding club would be using. You will be glad to hear that I was not necessarily the lead for the code club, and actually it was an incredible parent who I ended up working with for years after that at the coding clubs to provide some really great experiences for the pupils. So he facilitated a lot of the coding club, and we used a lot of the ideas that the pupils wanted to frame how we would plan around those things. I was really learning alongside the pupils, and I loved every minute of it. I think as a teacher sometimes it's you do a lot of the teaching, but to sit back and watch and learn alongside the children was quite a new experience, and actually it sort of flipped on its head the way that I would have eventually come to operate my own classroom. As I spent more time at the coding club, the weeks went by, my confidence grew. I was really, really enjoying what I was doing, and I was still spending my nights looking at tutorials and how-to guides because I was absolutely fascinated about how everything worked and what the opportunities were available to provide really great learning experiences for the pupils. As time went on and years went on, I then had staff asking me about how they could incorporate coding into their own lessons. And with a small group, I then was running digital drop-ins for staff and CLPLs for staff, all about coding and how they could incorporate that into their lessons, all the while playing about and tinkering with robots and anything else I could get my hands on, quite honestly. So as the time went on, my pupils were then coming to me and saying, I would love to hear about stop motion animation, I would love to do some Lego coding, I would like to do some app design. And all of these things were then things that I would go and investigate and we would work on together and learn. So I had a lot of kind of plates spinning, but I was loving every minute of it. In 2018, I was approached by the parent, Alan, who I'd been working with on the coding club, and he asked if I would be willing to help him to create Make It Happen, which was going to be a charity. And the whole idea behind Make It Happen by Alan and its co-founder Gillian was that they wanted to inspire children into digital learning, that they were no longer just going to be passive consumers of digital learning, but actually digital creators themselves. And the way that we would do that would be through a paper-based innovative app design competition where pupils would be challenged to think of an app idea that would help to either fix a problem or help people to be entertained and have fun. Now, little did we know that the competition was going to turn into what it did today. So in 2018, myself, Alan, Gillian, a graphic designer and 2 other teachers kickstarted Make It Happen and piloted the Make It Happen competition in our own schools. We managed to work with 2,000 pupils that year and 4 schools, and all the ideas that the pupils came up with really were exceptional. We had so many ideas of pupils who were trying to fix problems for other people and thinking about empathy and things that they could do to help others. We had app ideas that were all very, very inventive about the way that they would want to use computer games to inspire the people round about them, or maybe actually to help with their learning. The ideas that they came up with were amazing, and the atmosphere in the school on the day that Make It Happen was there was utterly electric. All of the volunteers that we had have said the same thing. Every time we go out to schools, you just can't get over the excitement and the atmosphere that the pupils have. And when they realise that the thing that they're writing down on paper could be turned into a fully fledged functioning app, it really is amazing to see their eyes open up and pupils getting so excited about that. When it comes to the app design competition, all of the pupils participate from primary 1 to primary 7, and we pick one winner which we then create, which means that every school we go to has a winning app. And I think that for a school community, that's a really wonderful thing to be publicised and for those pupils to be recognised. A year later, 2019, we had then been to 16 schools. We had 10,000 pupils and counting, and we had over 1,500 app installs of pupils' apps across the world. We then also managed to get official charity status. Things were going well and we were really happy. By 2020, we had doubled that number and we had 20,000 children working with us. We had over 150 volunteers and we'd managed to go to 50 schools to run this simple app competition. Obviously, as you know, 2020, the pandemic hit. We didn't want to lose the momentum that we already had with the competition, so we decided to take it online. It was an option that teachers could use that was something that they could pick up and use straight away. It was something that parents could use if they were trying to entertain their children at home while they're trying to get their own work done. And it was something also that children were quite interested in. So the online competition was the pupils would download the app sheet that I'll show you, and they would complete that and then send us back pictures on Twitter. From that hackathon, we managed to create 6 apps, and we also had entries from pupils in England, pupils in America, and all over the world. So all of these things really were quite amazing for us at this point. We weren't really expecting this, and during the pandemic, some of the ideas that were coming in were absolutely incredible. I spoke a little bit earlier about the empathy and the thought for others that a lot of these pupils were having. And even during the pandemic, we had apps that were to help people to understand COVID. We had apps that were to help the emergency services. All of these ideas piling through into our inbox, and we couldn't believe what we were getting. As the lockdowns progressed, we did become acutely aware of the fact that there was a lot of families not able to communicate with the schools due to a lack of devices. They weren't able to maintain that learning. So we decided to turn our funding efforts towards providing devices to schools across Glasgow and London. And I know that that's just a drop in the ocean of what was really required, but it was just a way of us trying to help as best as we could. Then by the summer of 2021, we decided we wanted to make it happen to go bigger. 50 schools was awesome, but how many more children could we actually try to get encouraged and excited about digital learning and thinking about these critical skills that they could be using in the future? So we decided we wanted to expand Make It Happen. We wanted to go to more schools. We wanted to make it more open to anybody that wanted it. And we also wanted to create a Make It Happen High project, which would bridge the transition between primary school and secondary school. The Make It Happen High project would basically be the ultimate step up from the app design competition. And at the high school level, we would actually be training the pupils how to use a program called Thunkable, which is very similar to Scratch. It's block code to design their own apps and build their own apps using code, and then it would be simulated onto another device for them to see. This would also have the other side of things, which would be looking at jobs in STEM and jobs in digital technologies, encouraging pupils to then pick computing as a subject when it came to their subject choices. So far, we've been to 1 school for the Make It Happen High project, and the 6-week programme was a complete success. We are continuing to roll that out, and that will be our focus as we move forward. We also, between now and May, have another 40 primary schools booked in for the app design competition. But really the reason you're here is to see what we can do for you. And what we can do for you is, I've spoken about the app design competition, which is free to all schools across Scotland. We can come out and facilitate that. We'll pitch to the pupils. We will then leave the entry forms for the pupils to complete. When we collect them, we'll then judge the entries and we'll pick a winner. Our volunteer teams will then build the winning app and publish it onto our website so that it can be used by anyone. We'll return to the school and we'll let you know who the winners are. In addition to that, we've also started creating resource packs and inspiration packs to help with with schools implementing coding and lots of different digital avenues. So this inspiration pack runs from early right through to 3rd level. It links to the E's and O's and benchmarks, and then also has all of the suggested resources underneath. It's not an exhaustive list, but it certainly goes in a good way of getting you started if you're not sure where to begin. All of the resources were plucked because they were relatively simple to use and easy even for digital leaders and pupils to be using in classroom on their own, for older pupils more so. Another option is our digital leader training. So if schools have specific resources that they wish to use, we understand how hard it can be for teachers to be pulled out of class to train pupils up to use things or to train other staff up to use certain resources. So we can come in and train your pupils on how to use resources such as Spheros, Book Creator, iMovie, all of these different things, we're happy to come out and facilitate. And we also very often ask the pupils what they would like to learn about and then tailor those sessions to what the pupils would like to know. It then means that the pupils can then roll that out in their own schools, and the pupils become the leaders of learning, which we are really passionate about, because sometimes what we find is that if a teacher doesn't have the confidence to do the coding experiences and things, sometimes the pupils actually do, and they would be happy to try and lead that. And then the teacher, just like I did those years ago, learn alongside them. Another option is staff tutorials. So if staff are looking for specific resources that they want some help to get themselves started on, then please reach out and we can do some staff CLPL or tutorials on specific resources. And then the last, just as I'd said, is the Make It Happen High project, which obviously at the moment has a current waiting list, but that we are continuing to roll out in the years to come. I'll show you a few of the resources that we have. So this is the PowerPoint that we use in the primary app competition. We speak to the pupils initially about what is an app, what does it do, what devices can we use it on, what type of apps do they use, what types of apps do their siblings use or their parents use that might be different from themselves. We look at the different categories that are available when it comes to apps and talk about how sometimes apps fall into one or more of these categories, and sometimes also, for instance, the medical side of things. Pupils don't always automatically think about apps that help us with medical conditions, and we can probe that thinking along those lines. We then speak to the pupils about the app design, which is where they have initially thinking about what apps are and what they do, why they're important, and also challenging them to think of how an app could solve a problem or make their life easier. Once they've then confirmed an idea that they want to go on, we talk about the design element, which is both how an app looks and how it works, and both having that equal weighting and importance. And then finally, we take the app applications away and pick the winner and then build that app with our teams. And then we can come back and actually show the pupils the code. Because it's block code, pupils can go back in and edit that as well themselves if they choose. So this is the submission template that we use with all the pupils. You can see that it is not particularly exhaustive. Obviously, I said that we work with primary 1 right through to primary 7. And most of the schools that we work with, primary 1 and 2, are either supported by primary 6 and 7 to do the writing on either side, or it's sent home as a homework task. However, a picture can tell 1,000 words, as we all know. So the app icon and the home screen, the interface of how your app will look, the pupils can draw their own pictures. On the right-hand side, we have all the information that would be viewed on the App Store. So we have the icon, the name, and the basic description of the app. And on the left-hand side, we've got who would use it. Now, in the upper school, this opens up a whole conversation about why different apps have certain age limits on them. Is it due to interest or appropriateness? And actually, with a bit of probing, the pupils tend to lead that discussion. We've got why someone would use their app. So if it's to solve a problem, this is where they might explain that. And then lastly, what their app would do. And here we always explain how important it is to be as clear as possible, because you will not be sitting next to the programmer when they're programming your app. So you need to be as clear and specific as possible so that they know what you would like to build. And then obviously the pictures. From here we show them an example to show them what their app submission could look like, and we use this example, Space Unicorn Maths. Now, as you can see, that's quite a basic design. And then what we do is we then move on to show the pupils what's possible by showing them an app that we have then completed. So that is our submission template for Space Unicorn Maths, and then that's what we created using the Thunkable program for app design. In primary 6 and 7, those who've had exposure to coding, I would tend to also discuss with them the reason why we added multiple choice into that app. So to make it easier for the user, to give people a 1 in 3 chance of success, to make sure it's faster because they're on a timer, but then also talking about the fact that code is basically a list of instructions. And with those instructions, if we were not to have the multiple choice, we would have to have more, which opens the app up to more glitches, which people don't like. So those conversations actually happen very naturally within the class when we talk about these things. Even as far down as primary 4, those conversations are sometimes happening in the schools that we're in just now. Usually after that, we would then go onto the website and show the pupils some winners. And if you go onto our website, you will see 50, 60 different apps, all made by pupils, or all designed by pupils and made by us for them, that you can play about with and you can show your classes. We've made them most of them accessible to any device, which means you can actually play them in school as well. I spoke about the digital progression planner, and I'm going to show you that just now. So this is on our website and it's free to all. So you feel free to download this this PDF. You can see that it was made in collaboration with St Joseph's Primary because I started this when I was working in St Joseph's, and then have refined it and added to it as I've been doing more and more of this. So we've got the experiences and outcomes and the benchmarks, and then underneath the suggested resources. So that's early level all the way through to third level. And I'm just going to go to the last page and show you as well just some other websites and resources that are additional links that you might want to try out. So it's a good place if you're not sure where to start, where you can look and see where you might wish to start your pupils off. I hope that gives you an idea of what we do at Make It Happen and what we can do for you. But I know that some of you might still have some questions, which I'm happy to take just now. But if anyone also wants to reach out and contact us, then the email information is there. It's also on our website, and our social media information is there. So if you wish to follow our journey, then that's a good place to start.